10 Nights of Dreams by Natsume Soseki. The 10th night. Ken-san came to inform me that Shotaro, who had been abducted by a woman, wandered back on the 7th night, suddenly developed a fever, and collapsed into bed. Shotaro is the most handsome man in town, and an exceedingly good-natured, honest fellow. He has only one pastime. In the evening, wearing his Panama hat, he sits at the front of the fruit shop and gazes at the faces of the women passing by. And he constantly admires them. Other than that, he has no particular defining traits to speak of. When not many women are passing by, he looks at the fruit instead of the street. There are various kinds of fruit. Peaches, apples, loquats, and bananas are beautifully arranged in baskets, lined up in 2 rows so they can be readily taken as gifts. Looking at these baskets, Shotaro remarks on how beautiful they are. He says that if one is to do business, a fruit shop is the only way to go. Despite this, he himself just wears his Panama hat and idles his time away. He sometimes critiques things like summer oranges, saying, "This color is nice." However, he has never once taken out money to actually buy any fruit. Of course, he doesn't eat them for free either. He only praises their colors. One evening, a woman suddenly stood at the storefront. She wore splendid clothes, appearing to be a person of high status. The color of her kimono greatly pleased Shotaro. Furthermore, Shotaro was incredibly taken by the woman's face. So he took off his precious Panama hat, greeted her politely, and when the woman pointed to the largest fruit basket and said, "I'll take this," Shotaro immediately grabbed the basket and handed it to her. The woman then lifted it slightly and said, "Being naturally a man of leisure and an extremely agreeable fellow," Shotaro said, "Then I shall carry it to your home," and left the fruit shop together with the woman. And he never returned after that. People were saying that even for Shotaro, this was too careless. And just as his relatives and friends were starting to make a fuss, fearing something serious had happened, he wandered back on the evening of the 7th day. When a large crowd gathered around him and asked, "Sho-san, where have you been?" Shotaro replied that he had taken a train to the mountains. According to Shotaro, as soon as he got off the train, he emerged onto a field. It was an incredibly vast field, and everywhere he looked, there was nothing but green grass growing. Walking on the grass with the woman, he suddenly came out to the top of a steep cliff. At that moment, the woman said to Shotaro, "Try jumping down from here." Peering down, he could see the cliff face, but he could not see the bottom. Shotaro once again took off his Panama hat and repeatedly declined. The woman then asked if it was all right with him to be licked by pigs if he couldn't bring himself to jump. Shotaro absolutely hated pigs and kumoemon. However, thinking he could not trade his life for it, he still held back from jumping. Just then, a pig came up, grunting. Left with no choice, Shotaro struck the pig's snout with the thin betel palm walking stick he was carrying. Letting out a grunt, the pig tumbled backwards and fell down the cliff. Just as Shotaro breathed a sigh of relief, another pig came to rub its large snout against him. Reluctantly, Shotaro raised his stick again. The pig grunted and tumbled headlong into the bottom of the pit once more. At this point, Shotaro suddenly noticed something, and looking off into the distance, from the far end where the green plain met the horizon, tens of thousands of countless pigs were forming a herd, marching in a straight line, grunting as they headed straight for Shotaro, standing on top of the cliff. Shotaro was truly appalled from the bottom of his heart. But having no other choice, he carefully struck the snouts of the approaching pigs one by one with his beetle palm stick. Strangely enough, if the stick merely touched their noses, the pigs would tumble down to the bottom of the valley. Peering down, he saw a procession of upside-down pigs falling down the bottomless cliff. Thinking about how many pigs he had dropped into the valley, Shotaro became afraid of himself. And yet, the pigs kept coming one after another. As if dark clouds had grown legs, they came pushing through the green grass with tremendous momentum, grunting inexhaustibly. Mustering desperate courage, Shotaro struck the pigs' snouts for 7 days and 6 nights. But eventually, his energy ran out. His hands grew as weak as konjac, and in the end, he was licked by the pigs. Ken-san told Shotaro's story up to this point, and then said, "So it's not good to look at women too much." I also thought he was right. However, Ken-san was also saying that he wanted Shotaro's Panama hat. Shotaro will probably not survive. The Panama hat will likely belong to Ken-san.